like to start with this. Just get some background info and then get an idea of kind of your history, background, all that stuff. All right. So,
Okay.
for those who don't know, why don't you introduce yourself and who you are, what you do?
I am BodyThoseFools. I am a YouTube content creator and streamer on Twitch. I play Azir and make 2v2 content.
You can say that you're maybe the best Azir player and on the server, right?
Yeah, best Azir player on server. I solo kill beaten faker, solo queue, cool stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So into the actual purpose of this now. So thank you for agreeing to come on. I appreciate you reaching out last second. I was worried that like, hey, nobody's actually going to want to do this, but I'm going to try to do these more regularly. Every Friday is going to be a fitness Friday. We just kind of bring someone on, go over some health related questions, and maybe help you out a little bit. So why don't you describe what's going on and how long it's been happening?
So it all started. I was doing like some forearm curls in the gym, and just out of nowhere, I got like a lot of pain in my forearm.
Okay.
And then
Specifically, you said this side.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, like up here. I just get like ever since then I've been getting like this electric like pain that just like shoots down,
Hmm.
comes out of nowhere, surprises me. It's just like very annoying and painful. But
How
yeah.
long ago was that?
Um Maybe like 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay. Okay.
Sometime like earlier this year, I think.
Oh, and then I forgot, I haven't done this in a while. Uh, just to reiterate that I am not going to be treating you as a patient. I'm not going to be trying to diagnose or, treat you as an injury. I'm going to basically go over what I think potentially might be affecting your symptoms, and then here's some things you can try. So, this is purely for educational purposes. I'm going to try to give you some ideas of what might be going on and some options, but it's not going to be like treating you as a patient and diagnosing an injury. So,
Yeah.
um, so 4 or 5 months ago, over the last 4 or 5 months, has it been getting better, getting worse, been about the same?
It's been getting a little bit better. But like if I ever like sleep on it and I'll like wake up and it's like just crazy pain.
Okay. Sleep on
Yeah.
it meaning like laying on the arm itself
Yeah, like
or
if I just like I'm a side sleeper, if I like lay on like the left side, I'll just like wake up like very uncomfortable.
okay. Have you had
Yeah.
any numbness or tingling?
Um yeah, I guess like when the pain kind of feels like tingling.
Feels like tingling. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said it's only localized to the arm. It
Yeah.
doesn't go any further into the hand or
Yeah, it like starts like right here and like shoots up to like my wrist like right here maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
And when you're doing curls, the initial injury itself, were you doing like reverse
Yeah.
grip? Okay.
Yeah, I was doing that, but like it doesn't hurt at all when I do work out. It just like that's when it like first started. I like first noticed it. I was like, "Oh, that's weird."
Hmm.
Maybe I just like didn't warm up enough or something, but
Okay. Does it
I'm
hurt
pretty sure
during the
it's
day? Like
kind of nice.
does it hurt during any other movements or activities?
Probably after like long hours of like gaming, yeah, it'll like
Okay.
appear.
Okay. And does it hurt when you're like doing things like holding, let's say, a cup or something, or holding things in that hand, carrying things?
Nah,
No. Okay. When you do feel
thing doesn't
pain,
trigger it at all.
yeah. Okay. When you do feel pain, is it immediate or is it something that like lingers?
Um, like how long it like lasts?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like pretty immediate.
Okay. And then it
It
goes
doesn't linger
away.
too much. Like it
Okay.
used to linger a lot longer, but I think I've like helped it get better just through like exercise and like stretching.
Okay.
I feel like
What
it's slowly getting better, but it's like definitely still there.
what stretches seem to help?
Um, I'll like do like the like standard wrist stretches, like doing that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's about it. I noticed like when my neck is like super tight or like my hips are like super tight, it like gets even worse.
Okay.
So I try to like keep those.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's
Yeah,
kind of where I'm leaning. To me, just based on everything you've described and kind of the pattern of this, it sounds more like it's nerve related than tendonitis.
oh,
Tendonitis is generally more an issue of irritation of the muscle or tendon. That tends to heal on its own if you're not re-aggravating it. So initially, if you were to do something like heavier weightlifting, you're restraining those muscles and you strain the muscle itself, the tendon, then you probably okay would have stopped doing as much, right? You let it rest, and
yeah,
usually after 2 or 3 weeks, it should just feel basically back to normal, unless
yeah.
it's a severe strain. Now, nerve is a little bit different because if you tweak the nerve for some reason and it got
Ah,
irritated, it could very well repeatedly get irritated with other activities, and that's why you keep feeling it flare up, or it never fully resolves and it kind of just fluctuates. So the things that make me think more nerve related, also you said that, hey, I get neck stiffness, especially
Mm.
to that side. Sleeping on it makes it worse, right? If you had a tendinopathy, unless you were sleeping on your hand where it's completely bent and stretched, it shouldn't really affect it.
Okay.
So to me, it sounds more like there's some nerve involvement. And you said it feels like tingling. That's usually indicative of a nerve. So
Okay.
the interesting thing is it's on your keyboard hand, which usually
Yeah.
for league players is usually not that big a deal. But since you play Azir, um, that actually is kind of a big deal. So there's certain
Yeah.
champs I've found when I work with players that mechanically, because they demand so many clicks, they actually tend to aggravate players who or aggravate people who have issues on the keyboard hand, which is sort of the opposite. Usually league players, you see a lot more mouse hand issues. So, okay. Let's run through a couple of, I guess, tests to just rule in, rule out some stuff.
Okay.
I'm going to have you basically turn your head left and right as far as you can.
All right.
And if you can do that actually facing the camera,
Oh, sure.
yeah,
Oh,
just so I can actually get a better objective assessment your left and right turning. Yeah. Okay. Do you feel the difference between the left and the right?
maybe my left is like a little bit tighter.
Okay. So going to the left. Did you feel anything going down your arm into your shoulder? No?
Nah.
Okay. And then what about looking up and down? Any issues there?
No.
Okay, great.
Other than like my neck just being tight from sitting a lot.
We'll talk about posture and stuff, all the basic stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, and then take your hand now, and I'm gonna mirror you, so I'm gonna use my right hand, but it's gonna be your left hand. So I want you to reach like this. You're gonna grab your thumb. You're gonna reach back behind you,
Okay.
fingers up. Yeah, just reach all the way back.
It
How does that feel?
was all right.
Do you feel anything in your arm?
It feels tight like right here now. Is
Okay,
that normal?
but it doesn't recreate your pain.
No, it does not recreate the pain.
Okay. And then what about if you go like this? So you're gonna go palm towards your head.
Like this.
Yeah, and then you're gonna go out like this, fingers down.
Okay.
Do you feel anything there?
No.
No.
No pain from the
Okay, great. Last one. You're
arm
gonna go pinky behind your ear.
behind my ear.
Yeah, like that. Exactly. Like you're trying to put your palm against your headset.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything there?
Not.
Yeah.
Nah.
Good. Okay. So did you feel anything there?
Actually, I did just like feel something right here.
Okay.
Like that one.
Did that feel similar to your symptoms?
Uh, it wasn't that bad, but I did like feel some like uncomfort there.
Okay. Was it the same area?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we're on the right track then. We got something happened in the right area. That's usually where I like to start. Okay. So those are 3 different tests for different nerves: the radial nerve, the median nerve, and then the ulnar nerve. The ulnar nerve being the last one. Ulnar nerve is also the most commonly irritated nerve in gamers, I find, because of the way that we position keyboards and mice and all that. Typically, a lot of people think that the median nerve, which is affecting carpal tunnel, is the most commonly injured. It's actually not. The most common is the ulnar nerve, and it has a lot to do with the deviation of your hand towards the ulnar side or pinky side causes compaction and irritation of the nerve as it crosses into your pinky and ring finger. So, how long can you play before you start feeling like this gets irritated?
It's been getting a lot better. I'm like able to like play longer recently, but I'd say like around like maybe 4 to 6 hours. Sometimes up to 8. Any longer, then it just like it gets obviously pretty bad.
Okay. And is that consecutive hours, like straight?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's like
Um,
straight like that.
when you play, do you use your pinky and ring finger a lot?
I do. So for Azir, like you have to. I like press my A key a lot for like attack move, and I'll
Hmm.
press S a lot, and then, like QW a lot.
Okay.
Like
What are
I
your
like these.
so wait, you have different keybinds then. What's your S?
My S is for like stop
Oh, you
movements, stop
use
all
stop. Okay,
actions.
okay. That's a high
Yeah,
elo thing. I definitely don't do that. And then you
I
said you
found that a
use,
lot.
yeah, you use E or for your attack move or A.
I use A for attack move,
Okay, so that's why
like
your
auto
pinky is
attacking.
involved.
Yeah. So
Ah,
my
okay.
ring and like pinky are like insanely tight compared to like every other finger.
Yeah, so this
I've
makes a
noticed.
this makes a lot of sense now, right? I just said
Yeah.
that the ulnar nerve is the most affected. We had positive ulnar signs. The 2 fingers that the ulnar nerve interact with or innervate are the ring finger and the pinky finger. So based on how most people's keyboards are, I'm gonna take a look at your setup too. Do you play with your keyboard aligned with your desk, or like horizontal, or do you play with it turned in?
Yeah, I play with it like a lines.
Okay, that's a major issue.
See.
Because when you do that, I'm gonna hold up this other keyboard I have actually, so you guys
Okay.
can see. So if I'm like this, right, and my keyboard's aligned, oh, this is gonna be kind of hard. But when I play, I have to turn my hand this way towards my pinky, right?
Right.
Like that. So you can imagine if I just said that the nerve itself runs like this, you're creating a pivot point for that nerve where it gets trapped and irritated, and you're repeatedly pulling on it.
See.
So if you irritate, so this probably wasn't an issue for a while because you've been doing this for years. You play a lot
Yeah.
and it's not been an issue. What that means is you probably had your nerve just kind of sensitized to a higher degree of irritation, and all it took was for one little thing at the gym to just tweak it, and now it's like been flared up.
Okay.
So one of the things I would definitely recommend doing is turning your keyboard like this, right? Like a lot of FPS players do. They will angle the inside of the keyboard down
Oh.
in
Okay.
order to keep a more neutral wrist position. That's like the number one thing that's gonna immediately
Oh,
probably
I
give you
can.
some
Yeah, I can
relief.
see the difference
Yeah.
of like how
So
that feels
right away,
immediately.
you're gonna have a lot less pressure and a lot more freedom of movement for your pinky finger and your ring finger. This is a
See.
specific issue I've seen a lot with league players because for whatever reason, league players all like to keep their keyboard horizontal. And you look
Yeah.
at any like Valorant player, CS:GO player, they all angle in because
I thought that
it,
was just for like desk space or something.
no, it's actually for mechanics because when you think about how joints and muscles work, right? You have a certain degree of range available. If you're playing like let's pretend like it's an arc like this, right? If you're playing at the very end of that arc, you don't have a lot of room to work with. So it actually creates a lot of compression. Where versus if you're aligned here, you can go this way, you can go this way. You're nowhere near your end range. You know, you can kind of work a lot of range there. So you actually have more freedom for mechanical movement, which helps a lot. So yeah, that's the number one thing I would change is just change the keyboard position a little bit. The other thing
Sure.
you want to think about is the alignment of your wrist and hand from the horizontal plane. So do you play with your elbow supported on the
Yeah.
armrest and all that? So
Yeah, I got armrests.
yeah, so forearm is horizontal and you're kind of like this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because one of the other big issues is if you play like this, right? Some people do this, where
Mm.
their elbow is lower than the desk. Again, you create that angled point for that nerve. Think of the nerves as like a garden hose, right? A garden hose carries water, it travels. If you put a bend in that hose, you've now reduced the volume or the speed that the water can go through, right? Nerves inherently need blood flow, so when you start bending and kinking them, you start inhibiting how much blood flow can go to that nerve and it gets really irritable. So every time you bend or have a positional change of that nerve instead of making it aligned, it's going to increase the degree of irritability a little bit. And then when you combine that with doing something repeatedly for 8 to 10 hours a day, now you have a problem because it's going to get
Yeah.
that little tiny bit of irritation over and over and over. Not really a big deal if you play 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but then after eight, now it's become flared up. And the more often you do that, the more likely it is to decrease that amount of time as you keep going. So, if you didn't change anything and you just kept irritating it like you are now, then maybe in 6 months from now, it might go down to like I can only play 1 or 2 hours. And that's
Mm.
usually when I see people. It's usually when people are like, man, I've had this issue for like almost over a year and it hasn't gone away. And now it's like constant and I can't play at all. And that's really hard to deal with because now there's really no way to get someone to recover from that without basically telling them they have to stop playing for a while. They have to do other things and bring that um, capability back to play for 1 hour and then 2 hours and then 3 hours. You have to build it all the way back up versus where you're at. That's why I always ask about your current play endurance. If you're able to play 4 hours pain free, you're golden. Like I guarantee, like once you change these little things and you do a couple of stretches, I'm going to show you, it's basically a non-issue because your irritability is not anywhere near as high as someone who has a full blown injury yet.
Yeah.
So it's really good. Um, yeah, so I talked about the keyboard position, arm position. So that's all ergonomics. That's just the overall setup. That's what you can do to prevent the nerve from getting more irritated as you're playing. Now, what do you do to get it to calm down? What do you do to recover? It'd be stretches and nerve mobility exercises. So, like I mentioned, the biggest issue with nerve is blood flow restriction. So the way that you repair that or make it feel better is you increase blood flow to the nerve, you increase the mobility of the nerve. This test I had you do
Yeah.
is basically tensioning that nerve. So the way the nerve runs, it comes out of your neck, goes in through your armpit, down your arm, loops here. So the ulnar nerve is your funny bone, right? So if you've ever banged it right here, like you feel that
Yeah.
zinging, goes straight to
Yeah.
these two fingers. That's your ulnar nerve. And then it comes up through the pinky side of the wrist and then into these two fingers. So when you do this, it's fully tensioned as much as it can. It's stretched. That's why you feel it. So what you can do is you can either use that stretch to lightly improve the range like anything else. You can stretch it within tolerance and it will improve the length of it. Or if that's too irritable, then you stretch while you relax the other end, and then vice versa. You stretch, let me move this one, stretch, and then you relax here. So this is called the nerve glide, where you're basically pulling and pulling from one side at a time so that the nerve actually kind of flosses through the channels versus this way, which is you're just pulling from both ends and trying to stretch it. Stretching it is inherently more aggravating. So if it's really flared up, I don't recommend just stretching. I usually recommend like doing some gliding so it loosens up and moves better. But once you can tolerate it, then stretching is actually really good because you want to improve the length of the nerve. Is that
So
all? Does
let
all
me
that
see
make
if I
sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
let me try this with you. Let me see
Yeah.
if I'm like doing this right. So
So
can you show me one more time?
yeah, you're gonna go pinky down.
Down like
Yeah, yep.
this.
And then as your hand goes out, your hand comes as your arm goes out, your hand comes in like that.
Okay. Oh yeah, my pinky feels weird, bro.
Yeah. So right away you start feeling some symptoms, right? Like that's a good
Yeah.
sign actually. Um, the important thing to note is when you're doing these things, you don't want to push through anything. So if you're
Hmm.
doing this and you start to feel tingling, don't keep going. Like go until you feel the tingling and stop. That's your body's way of saying that's my limit right now. And then
Yeah.
that's going to change day to day. Some days you're going to be really, really good. It feels great. You can go really far. Some days maybe you slept on it weird, your neck was kinked or whatever, and it was like irritated. And then now you wake up and you can barely do this and you already feel it. Don't push through that.
Yeah.
Like give it that day to recover. One of the most important things with nerve irritation is to start learning how to listen to your body. If it tells you that, hey, it's really, really flared up today, just take it easy. Don't push it too hard. On a day that it's good, take advantage of it. Try to stretch more, try to do more stuff. The other thing you can probably do this is something I recommend everyone does anyway. If you're on your computer, is tendon glides. You can go open and close. You can go
I
open
do
and
some of
close.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just doing this alone is actually really good preventative work. Even if you don't have any injuries, don't have any nerve pain, it's just keeping mobility in the nerves that govern your hands. So all the
Yeah.
carpal tunnel stuff, the ulnar nerve stuff, that can be prevented a lot of times just by regularly like actually moving through range.
I have insanely tight hands.
Yeah, well,
So
I mean that's a big part of it,
I should
especially
do this
when
more often.
yeah, when you play games like League, right? You're clicking so much, you're using the mouse so much, and a lot of times, I'm assuming you play on higher sense. Every League player does. You're sort of gripping the mouse as well with like your fingertips. Like that grip uh, is really really hard to maintain without aggravating compression and increasing pressure in the
Yeah.
the areas of your hand, the nerves, all that stuff. And then also, League is inherently a stressful game because it's competitive, and there's an element of neural tensioning that will occur when people are stressed. It's not just like, oh, when you're stressed, you tighten up and it's all muscular. It's like there's actually sensitization of nerves, right? So when you're in a hypersensitized state, your central nervous system is really firing. Your nerves also get tight and they will reduce how much mobility they have. And then you combine that with all the repetitive motions, all that stuff. It's really easy to see why some of this stuff like really, really blows up on people.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, in addition to doing like the nerve specific movements, what I usually recommend is thinking about the nerves also as like a part of a whole. So your nerves in your body are kind of like tree roots. They all go to the spinal cord and they flare out like roots
Yeah.
to all the different parts of your, limbs, fingers, all that stuff. They're all connected. So one of the other things you want to think about addressing is your neck, right? Neck and trunk. A lot of times when you're playing, not you, but people in general, you can kind of see this forward head posture, right?
Yeah.
So when your neck is extended like that, it puts pressure on the joints in the back of your neck where the nerve roots actually come out of. And so you're also now pinching down on the area of the nerve that the blood flow is first coming out of. So you're sort of pinching the hose at three different points now. And that's why a lot of times, unless you address it, top down, you're going to continue having issues too, which is also why when your neck is flared up, you feel more of this. It's all connected. So one of the easiest ways to deal with the neck stuff is if this is pinched down, this is open because the joints kind of sit on top of each other, right? So you can do a stretch like this where you pull your chin back and pull your head forward, and that just opens up a lot of the joints in your neck and also stretches those neck muscles in your back. And then just regular movement again. Like I always do head turns left, right. I look up, down. Just try to stay mobile. The body really likes to move in general. So if you think of every 8-hour gaming session as broken up into 4 2-hour sessions, you have a way better time. Every 2 hours, you just go through some full movement. This is essentially enough to, I guess, give your spine enough of a break that it doesn't feel like you've been sitting for 4 hours. Like that's really all it takes is every hour or so you just move in every direction, full range, and it sort of counts as like not having sat for that long. And what I usually recommend is that you start doing that stuff from the beginning, right? Like, so the first hour you start doing, you don't start doing it when you are starting to feel stiff and tired, because that's already that point where your body's like, hey, we need to get out of this. This is too much. If you do it early on, you almost never get to that point. So that's the goal, is extending out, breaking everything into micro sections of time rather than thinking of every 4 hours you have to get up and move around. I don't really give people that kind of advice because I know, like I've done the same, especially if I'm streaming. I'm not going to get up from my stream unless I have to use the restroom or something. Or if there's like, sometimes you're grinding, like you just get stuck in one of those, like I have
just get in
to,
the zone.
yeah, I'm feeling good or I'm feeling bad. I have to grind like 6 games in a row. It's really hard to convince someone to like get up in the middle of that and just like walk around and go for a walk. Like that's really hard. So I usually say if you can do little physiologic micro breaks in your chair, then you get the benefit of kind of changing your body position. You get some of the benefits of improving blood flow and stuff like that. And then you don't actually have to get up and make it a really annoying inconvenience to what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and obviously you work out, so that I'm not even getting too much into that. But when you're working out, I would really try to prioritize pull motions, like anything where you're working on postural strengthening, right? So like deadlifts, rows, pull downs, a lot of that stuff is really good for gamers. Planks are a great core exercise. When you're doing planks, I would do the same thing. Don't look up. I would try to keep my chin tucked and my neck kind of straight as I'm planking, because again, you don't want to create compression of the nerves here. So the other thing too to pay attention to is whenever you're working out, start looking at exercises where you start feeling like you do this, right? There's a few exercises where people will habitually just do this. And so if you're aware of that, then it helps a lot to just try to avoid those things. Okay.
I see.
Yeah. Any questions on anything we talked about in regards to the nerve or anything like that?
No. No
Okay.
questions.
Have you ever had issues on your mouse hand?
No, other than just like my hand just getting like super tight, especially like I've been playing like FPS games a lot more like recently, and yeah, it's like starts getting like insanely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do you change your sensitivity when you switch to FPS games?
Yeah, I have a different sense for FPS. It's like a lot like slower.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Like
lower
move the
sense
mouse
is gonna help.
more.
Yeah.
And like I notice I grip the mouse like way harder when I'm playing FPS.
It's a really common thing. It depends on what kind of mouse you have too. I was actually going to do a study on this, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Look for that soon. I'm going to put a survey out, but I have a theory that ultralight mice, like mice under 30 grams, like they tend to cause people to death grip a lot more because
Yeah, mine's very light.
yeah, it feels so light that you actually don't have a lot of tactile feedback. So you end up gripping really tight to be more precise. It's a theory I have. I want to test it because a lot of the pros I've talked to about it, they're like, oh yeah, when I switched to a lighter mouse, I found that I gripped harder. So I'm going to put a survey out at some point. I go in to get some feedback from other people. I've always found that to be true, but yeah, so I think with going into FPS and switching back and forth and all that, you're going to see some of those things come up for sure. Like gripping the mouse too tight, you're getting a lot of that tightness through the middle of your hand. Gripping always increases nerve irritation as well, because when you grip, you intrinsically increase pressure. And when you increase pressure, you restrict blood flow. And again, we talked about how nerve pain is basically related to blood flow. So yeah, you don't want to do too much of that when it's really flared up. So right now I'm not worried about that because your symptoms are so mild, but someone who had like really, really bad full-blown carpal tunnel, for example, would have a really hard time actually weightlifting because whenever they grip the bar and stuff like that, it would actually probably flare up their carpal tunnel symptoms.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's no fun.
No.
But yeah, all in all, I think your symptoms are fairly mild. I think it's definitely more nerve related rather than a tendonitis or something like that, because tendonitis would have gone away on its own pretty much. So try the mobility stuff, try the desk changes I mentioned, angling your keyboard inward a little bit. Pay attention to trying to stay in neutral ranges when you play. So even the mouse, a lot of times I'll see people like start with their mouse kind of like this. And so they already don't have a lot of room to flick right. And so you want to think about bringing your elbow wider so that your mouse is relatively here more. So now you have all this freedom,
So
right?
wider elbow,
Well,
like
like,
out more.
yeah, pushed out to where the alignment of your middle finger is usually what we use. The middle finger through your arm is basically in line.
Okay.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, when they play with their mouse too close, you can imagine that it's kind of like this,
Yeah.
versus like this. So, yeah, that's something I would also just pay attention to too. All right. Cool. Any other questions about the arm or anything that I went over?
No, that was very, very educational, and I feel like I learned about like what I have in my arm right now.
Cool.
And I've been like wondering a
Yeah.
while,
Yeah, I
why is
hope
it like this?
I predict it will feel pretty good actually with like within the next week or so if you just kind of incorporate some of those things. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
very serious. It just one of the big reasons I think this stuff is important too is education because if you don't know what's wrong, you don't know what to not do. That's the more important
Yeah.
thing. The things to avoid more so, like how to stop irritating it. But yeah, I think it'll feel pretty good. Let me know though. I want you to just DM me or whatever like next week and just keep me updated. All right.
Yeah. I'll incorporate all this stuff into my like workout routines, my stretch routines, and
Cool.
I'll let you know
Sounds good.
if
All
it's
right.
better.
I appreciate your
All right.
time and I hope it helps.
Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge, man. That was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Take care.
Have a good one. You too.
Bye.